Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about the customer experience, otherwise known as CX, and how it's built into tech solutions today. We'll look at what makes for an effective CX, one that builds true engagement with customers. To discuss that, I'm joined by Thimaya Subaiya, Senior Vice President and General Manager of Global Customer Experience at Cisco. Thimaya, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, James. Excited to be here.
So I think it's really interesting about customer experience. We don't hear quite as many headlines about customer experience in the tech world. We hear about cloud computing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, algorithms, but what about customer experience? It's still obviously extremely important. So I'd love to get your sense, how effectively is customer experience built into today's tech offerings as you see it? It's a big, broad question, but I'd love to get your sense of that.
Absolutely. James, I think we're still getting started. Is the beginning of the journey, in my opinion. And if you think about overall technology, we've always focused on what's the solution for the customer. Nobody's ever thought about what does the customer experience look like to begin with? And then what are the solutions and the problems that we're trying to solve for? So when I say we are just getting started, we are just at the beginning of building it into our technologies. But more than anything, it's also about how do our consumers actually experiences not only from a hardware perspective, software perspective, but on a day-to-day perspective. And that's something that's starting to become top of mind. And if you look at some of the latest studies, it's shown that customer experience used to be among the top 10 priorities for all CEOs. But now it's started to become either number one or number two. And that is extremely important for us to look into and for every company to have top of mind, to be able to create that unique ability to solve customer problems, but keeping in mind how they experience us from the beginning.
Fascinating. Okay, so maybe I better step back a little bit. When I think about customer experience, I'm thinking maybe of user interface, but really is it a larger idea? Maybe we should talk about what exactly we mean when we say customer experience. I mean, is it the entire experience? What exactly is it?
Oh, customer experience is way bigger than the user interface.
Of
Customer
course.
experience begins with, number one, what are the problem that a customer is trying to solve? And typically I say we innovate with products, but we solve customer transformation with the experience that we provide. So it begins with, why are you buying the product? What is the use case that you're buying the product for? What is the outcome that you want to achieve? And then it starts with, is it easy to buy the product? Is it easy to onboard with the product? Is it easy to implement the product? Is it easy to adopt the product? And then are you truly achieving your outcome? But not only achieving your outcome, are you achieving your outcome faster? And are you getting true ROI on whatever you've purchased? That holistically becomes the customer experience. We commonly refer to it as the life cycle of a customer, pre-sales all the way down to post-sales to renewal. And that entire journey that the customer takes with us is the experience that I'm talking about.
So when you say the customer experience is in its infancy or just getting started, does that mean that many customers and many companies are actually frustrated with the customer experience?
Oh, there is going to be pockets of frustration, but it all begins with implementation, in my opinion. And the reason why I say it all begins with implementation is ultimately a customer has a need why they're buying the product. And typically, if you look at why do they not get to the need that they have, it starts with the implementation not being done right. And that's where most of the customer sentiment, the adoption challenges, the frustration with customers begin, is when the implementation is not going well, and it's not going well in a timely manner. And that is truly, truly the ultimate experience that you want to provide, is make sure that the integration goes well, and then the journey becomes much more seamless and smooth.
It seems counterintuitive that the customer experience would be difficult, in that you would think vendors would say, well, whatever we do, we need to make sure the customer experience is great, because that's really what it's all about. You think customers would insist on that almost nothing would happen without a great customer experience. Why is it still not perfect or far from perfect?
The customer experience is, it takes an ecosystem to provide the right customer experience. It's not only about the company, it's also about the partners engaged. It's also about the customers themselves. And if you look at today's world, especially with cloud-based technologies, nobody is depending on that one vendor to solve their problems.
Right.
Companies depend on about 50 to 100 vendors in some cases to solve various different problems. And integration becomes extremely difficult because everyone's providing a different set of technology that has a different experience. So now me as a consumer, me as a buyer, I'm not only looking at the solution that I need to provide, but I'm also interfacing with multiple different people and multiple different channels, and working with all of them to try to figure out what the right solution is for me. And that's where all companies cannot have the same experience. And that's where you start to see an imbalance in terms of the overall experience.
Well, let's talk about Cisco itself. How is Cisco serving the customer experience needs of its clients? I mean, what's the Cisco advantage in this sense?
Meet our customers where they are, solve problems for them. Stop thinking of it as you're just a vendor, and start thinking about it as a strategic business partner. And that's where the journey with Cisco is going. And the reason why I'm saying going is because in today's world, customers typically consume products as well as services in multiple different ways, including digital forums. So think about it this way: even within one company, when you buy a set of services or a set of products, you may end up with like 3 or 4 different dashboards that you have to go to, 3 or 4 different visibility tools. You may not have a cohesive integrated insights available from each one of these. And that's where the true digital experience really starts to make a big difference. And that's something that we've started to build into our customer experience solutions, is we are thinking digital first. And that is truly starting to become the unique value proposition that we bring to the table. But then what we're doing is we're saying it's not only digital first, but how do we back this with AI, ML? How do we get much more predictive? And apart from that, a lot of our customers have told us, do not lose the human touch. So it's creating that balance of the right human touch with the right digital touch, and being able to back it with everything that we call IP, that's AI-led, and being able to surface that to our customers in the right way. It's truly a Cisco advantage. Sorry.
Interesting. I mean, it's fascinating about the using AI, and then the customer saying, don't lose that human touch. Because obviously, you know, networking vendors, all vendors really need to be incorporating AI at this point. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means in terms of using AI, but still using the human touch, still having the human touch? How do those two things get balanced?
So first, let's get into why do customers say that they want a human touch? Think about it this way. If your entire network during Thanksgiving suddenly crashes,
right,
you're going to a digital interface, it's telling you what's going wrong, but at the end of the day, the comfort lies in being able to pick up the phone, call someone, and that person being an expert in the industry, telling you, I'm going to sort this out, give me 30 seconds, and we'll get you back up online. Just that piece of it, the comfort level automatically goes up, the experience goes up, there's that sigh of relief that comes in saying, okay, it's a 30-second window that we just need to wait for. It's going to be back up within 30 seconds. And that is where our customers tell us, give us an expert as we need or when we need, to be able to like not only assure us, but also be able to troubleshoot for us immediately. So number one, that we are able to like resolve the problem that we are currently dealing. But apart from that, also look into, yes, the AI is telling us certain things, but also validate that for us and tell us, okay, these are certain patches or fixes that need to go into place. So that way, problem does not happen again.
That's really interesting. You made one other point I thought was super interesting. You talked about one of the challenges with customer experience is any vendor is often interoperable with many other vendors. So their customer experience may rely on some of the other people they're partnering with. How does Cisco handle that? Of course, being a leader in the networking sector, it's going to have many partners. So how does it handle the issue of like making the customer experience great, even though it has many partners that may be part of the offering?
So I think for Cisco's partners, as part of my organization, as part of my team, and the reason why I say that is because we've pivoted our entire portfolio to be also partner integrated and partner first.
Hmm.
And the reason why we do that, as well as share best practices with our partners, give them all the same training documents as well as the same training material. In fact, the training programs that we have for each one of our different roles is also openly available for all our partners, is primarily because we want our customers, whether they work with Cisco, whether they work with one of our partners, who I think is part of Cisco, they experience the exact same way of interaction, exact same way of being able to talk to an expert, as well as the kind of expert also.
Mm-hmm.
And that has become really, really critical. And I think one of our leading indicators in terms of customer satisfaction is because you go to a partner who's a Cisco partner, you get the exact same experience that you get with Cisco.
Hmm. That
And
makes a
that's the key to integration across the partner ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's look to the future of customer experience. I think there's pressure on customer experience to improve as digital transformation progresses. What do you see looking a couple years out or a few years out for customer experience? What is the future of CX in your view?
The future of CX, number one, is to be built into the products itself. And when I say digitally built into the products is specifically what I'm talking about. The second piece to it is being able to marry the human expertise with the right digital touch at the right time.
Hmm.
And finally, I'd say everybody in every company should own customer experience. It's not an organization. It has to be a theme across the entire company. And that is a huge cultural shift that every single company needs to make. And if you think about it, at the end of the day, your customer who's experiencing you also has customers who's experiencing them. And being able to leverage what you have and sometimes share what you have with your customers so that way they're able to create that unique experience is where the future is. And definitely there's the digital piece of it. There's the AI ML piece of it that I mentioned earlier that's starting to become more and more paramount within the entire industry, primarily because the way we consume technology, the way we experience technology has changed. And I'm not differentiating the way I experience something as a consumer and the way I experience something as buying from one of my vendors or my strategic business partners. It's all the same. It's all getting merged in.
Hmm.
And that's where the entire world is going, is it doesn't matter whether you're buying a piece of hardware, whether you're buying software, whether you're buying your phone, or whether you're buying something else for your house, you expect the same level of service and the same level of experience right through.
Right. Do you think there's a tension in the world now between, say, level of performance of a technology versus customer experience? And what I mean is, say there's some technology that's really, really hot. Maybe it's like the Ferrari of technology, and it goes really fast, but you've got to wait 3 months for the car, and it's hard to get into the car, and the salesman is a little rude to you, but still, you know, you're going to get a Ferrari, and to compete in today's world, you need a Ferrari, as opposed to kind of a used Toyota, and the salesperson's really nice, and they come out and they show it to you. Is there a sense like, you know, we need performance more than we need anything else? We'd even give up customer experience. Does that question make any sense at all?
That does make sense. But James, let me ask you one thing. If you go to a dealership and the experience to buy the Ferrari is really bad, what are you going to do? You're
Sure,
going to go to another dealership.
Correct.
So ultimately, and that's what I mean by the customer experience is across the entire ecosystem. And similarly, you come to Cisco, you have a bad experience, you're going to go to a competitor, or you're going to go to somebody else to buy this. You go to a partner, that experience does not work out, you're going to go to another partner. So I think it's about time the entire industry, irrespective of which field you're in, which vertical you're in, everybody needs to wake up to what the way a customer experiences you is the way that they're going to buy from you. But more importantly, it's also the way that they're going to tell their peers to buy from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Thimaya, that's a lot of good stuff. Any closing thoughts on what we need to know about customer experience? What should we be aware of and to conclude our thoughts here today?
Yeah, I'd say a couple of things. Number one is I think with customer experience, all companies need to start becoming a lot more conscious about certain things like net neutrality, as well as being much more eco-friendly.
Hmm.
because as consumers and as customers, I've heard a lot of our customers start to like pivot more towards, is this environmentally friendly? Are we doing the right things? Are we making the right decisions? So
Mhm.
customer experience for me is broader than just your product.
Mm.
It's truly about how you're making an impact within society in itself. And that starts to become more and more top of mind across the board. And apart from that, like I mentioned earlier, if you're a CEO, one thing that I would truly recommend is customer experience is not only within your top 10 priorities or your top 5 priorities, it should be among your top 1 or 2 priorities.
Thimaya, you mentioned digital tools. So what is Cisco doing in terms of digital tools for customers?
Let me begin with our journey in terms of digital. When we started off on this journey, we had close to about 85 different dashboards that customers could use. And dashboards. So what we said was we're going to put all this together, and there was born the CX Cloud. So Cisco's CX Cloud, what we essentially do is we integrate across all the different products. This is entirely telemetry backed. We also have a variant of it called the PX Cloud, which is available to all our partners in the entire partner ecosystem, so they are on the same page as us. But what we've done is we've taken 30 years of Cisco's learning and IP. And the best part about this is not only are we able to predict for our customers where they could have a network failure in the future, we can also give them automated remedial steps behind it, including security alerts. And then taking all of this together, I mentioned earlier that you could access an expert at any time with one click from within CX Cloud. You're able to access an expert, whether it's a networking expert, security expert, or collaboration expert. You can have access to them either in person via WebEx or just chat with them real time. And that I think has been super powerful. And a lot of our customers who are using CX Cloud have seen tremendous value in it.
Thimaya, I think you said it. A lot of fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. I totally appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, James.